Hello, I'm Stan Stolniker with Hub Culture, and we're at Climate Week NYC. We've stopped over here at the Clinton Global Initiative to catch up with a few people who are experts and leaders in the environmental and climate agenda and movement. Joining me right now is Helle Jorgensen, who has over 20 years of experience working in the climate space as a consultant, as an expert, as a change maker. Tell me a little bit about what you're up to now and what you think about the overall movement and drift of the climate agenda at large.
Well, first of all, when you say over 20 years, at that point we didn't even know that there was something like the climate and all the issues in that. So clearly it started, the environmental movement and then moved on. But I think right now we're at a point where we need to have the consumers involved. We need to have clearly the investors involved even more, business, NGOs, government. We need to have everybody around the table and actually start the movement for what we can already do now. And I think we probably also need to start looking at different business models. How can we start having a company making money without just selling more, but actually starting to look at different business models. And
so like new forms of growth, essentially.
New forms of growth, new forms of valuing a company. And that's clearly not coming from one day to another. And that also implies that you need the reporting, but it also implies that you need to have both like within the company, being that the CFO, the CEO, product development, everybody should have the vision of can this happen, but also outside the companies that we need different parties, the whole value chain of a company to actually work together, and the consumers. And I think one of the part we probably are missing in all this is also the consumers, making them understand what is all this and how can you have a product that brings something positive. It's not about just using less, it's also about using the right things.
So let's get down to specifics, because the whole idea of tackling the climate issue and the climate change problem is very wide-ranging and it's almost vast. And this idea of getting everybody on board and getting consensus from everybody probably isn't going to happen anytime too soon. What are the specific things that we can do now to try and move the needle for progress in this topic?
What we're trying to do at the moment is actually moving it by having some few really leading, companies, leading thinkers to start having, almost calling like lifeboats from the company to start looking at what can they do, how can they make things happen, and working together. So you don't start up by saying everybody needs to do everything, but actually what can happen. And you have some good examples out there, but we just need to scale that as well.
So what are some of those good examples?
Well, you have the good examples that are already of Interface and what they have done in terms of cardboard, zip cars. You have a lot of the things where you think differently, saying, oh, could a business model actually look in a different way? Mm-hmm. But then clearly also the whole reporting space. And I've been in the reporting space also for a long, long time, where we also see, how the movement within companies starting to report, but also need to ensure that companies don't need to report on 20 different schemes, but they know how to report without using too much energy on just reporting, but reporting on the right, relevant, strategic issues in a way where they don't need to do it over and over and over again. So you actually have two sides of the story. One on like the products and how to do that, and one on how to report.
So we've got lifeboats, we've got clear reporting guidelines, and then on the third thing you mentioned was really on the consumer side. What do you recommend that needs to happen on the consumer side to drive consumer action?
Well, it needs some kind of consumer movement, and it's already happening, but it's happening where we kind of say fair trade. We have a lot of good labels out there, but it's still like a niche. Mm-hmm. So if we could turn that, and I'm saying if we can turn it, hopefully we can, but it's not that's just normal. So it's not a niche. It's not just something that the people who have money or really want, but it's just like normal, because then you can start talking about the pricing of the products, but we need to turn that around, and that gets back to the business model. How do we get a business model where it's not a question about if you want to pay 50% more? Yes, you can get all the environmental, sustainable products, but actually perhaps the other way around, because the externalities is part of the product, and thereby the existing products might be even more expensive than they are now.
Right. So we're looking at, in that regard, some element of kind of almost smarter education around products and evolving the norm, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and that's probably what we're talking about, and that's what we're all talking about this week. But we are few people talking about it, and in order to actually get it out to a lot of people, we need perhaps to stop talking about the climate, stop talking about everything else, but like that this is the norm, this is the new normal. This is the business models in the 21st century.
Yeah. So it's old versus new, advanced versus unadvanced.
Yeah. Say that.
Okay, well, thank you very much for your insights, Helle. I'm Stan Stolliker with Hub Culture. We're at Climate Week NYC, and then, as I said, we've stopped into the Clinton Global Initiative to meet with experts like yourself. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.